Once upon a time, in the middle of a wide golden desert, there was a tiny oasis. This oasis was filled with all kinds of plants, some tall, some small, and some with beautiful flowers. Among them lived a rose and a cactus. The rose was incredibly proud of its beauty. It had bright red petals that shimmered in the sunlight, and every morning it admired itself in the reflection of a nearby pond. The cactus, on the other hand, was not nearly as fancy. It had thick, green skin and sharp spikes all over its body. It wasn't pretty, but it stood tall and strong under the harsh desert sun. The rose often looked at the cactus and said mean things like, "How can you stand to look at yourself? You're so spiky and dull. Just look at me. Everyone admires me because I'm beautiful." The cactus, although hurt by the rose's words, stayed silent. It didn't mind not being pretty. It was built to survive the tough desert. Other plants in the oasis didn't like how the rose treated the cactus. They would try to defend the cactus, but the rose was too obsessed with its looks to listen. "Beauty is what matters most," the rose would say, "and I am the most beautiful thing in this entire desert." One summer, the desert became even hotter than usual. Day after day, the sun blazed down, and soon the pond in the oasis began to dry up. The air was scorching, and there was no rain to be seen. The plants started to wilt, their leaves drooping under the intense heat. The rose, which had always relied on the water from the pond to stay beautiful, began to struggle. Its once vibrant petals started to dry and curl, and the rose felt weaker by the day. Meanwhile, the cactus stood firm, its deep roots reaching far into the ground for moisture. The other plants also tried to get closer to the cactus. They knew that the cactus could hold water in its thick green skin, and that made it a lifesaver in the desert heat. The cactus shared what little shade it could, helping the smaller plants survive. As the days passed, the rose grew more and more worried. It realized that without water, it would wither away completely. Its petals, once bright and glowing, were now turning brown and brittle. In desperation, the rose looked around for help. To its surprise, the rose saw sparrows fluttering around the cactus, pecking gently at its skin. The cactus, without a word, let droplets of water trickle from its body for the birds to drink. The rose's eyes widened in disbelief. "How is it that this dull, spiky plant can give life to others when I am struggling just to stay alive?" the rose wondered. Finally, with no other option, the rose swallowed its pride. It bent towards the cactus, its once beautiful head drooping. In a small, trembling voice, the rose said, "Cactus, I need your help. I am thirsty, and I am afraid I won't survive without water. Could you share some with me?" The cactus looked down at the rose with kindness. Even though the rose had insulted it many times, the cactus was not bitter. "Of course," said the cactus, "I will help you." Without hesitation, the cactus allowed its water to seep into the dry ground where the rose's roots were. Slowly but surely, the rose began to drink in the water. Its petals lifted a little, regaining a hint of their former brightness. The other plants watched in awe as the cactus shared its life-giving water. They admired the cactus's kindness and strength, and even the rose felt a warmth in its heart that it hadn't felt before. As days went by, the drought continued, but thanks to the cactus, the rose managed to survive. It wasn't as vibrant as before, but it stood tall once again, side by side with the cactus. The rose, once obsessed with its own beauty, had learned an important lesson. "I see now," said the rose one evening, as the sun set over the desert, "that beauty alone is not enough. You, cactus, are strong, kind, and have helped so many, even when I was unkind to you. I am sorry for the way I treated you." The cactus smiled softly, its spikes catching the last rays of the setting sun. "We all have our strengths, dear rose," the cactus replied. "What matters is how we use them to help others." One day, dark clouds gathered over the desert, and rain began to fall. The plants danced as the cool droplets soaked into the earth, refreshing every corner of the oasis. The rose and the cactus stood together side by side, enjoying the rain. The plants in the oasis flourished once more, and from that day on, the rose never bragged about its beauty again. Instead, it spread its petals wide and admired all the different plants in the garden, each one special in its own way. As for the cactus, it continued to stand strong, giving water to the birds and shade to the plants. It was admired not for its beauty, but for its strength, its kindness, and its ability to help others. And so, the rose and the cactus lived together in harmony, each one teaching the other. And all the plants around them, that true strength comes from what's inside.